Let's check in with our hockey insider from Daily Faceoff, dailyfaceoff.com. It's our buddy Frank Seravalli, who is on the is it the left coast? Because usually you're over on the one side. You're kind of over there, and but now you're over here. As you're in Vancouver. You were at the Rogers thing last night, watching the the Roxy. Is that where you were?
Yeah, good.
Nice, well done.
I have a confession.
All right,
I've never been to the Roxy.
Oh, Frank.
Now, is it still open?
Yes.
Okay.
The Roxy never closes.
No, I wondered if it was one of those things where it's just beloved, but it got shut down because of too much fun. That can happen sometimes. But so I know you were tweeting or Xing or whatever it is that we do. The crowd looked electric, and you've been in a lot of playoff buildings, and you've seen cup finals, and you've been in a situation where the fans are going to be wild, but it looked like it was 9 years they'll do that, but a special night for Canuck fans in Vancouver last night.
It was, I would say, really loud, not the loudest I've ever been in. It was good. The environment was great. It was everything you want it to be if you are a Canucks player, and a lot of pent-up frustration and angst went into that game one. And so I'm looking at it now from a Canucks perspective, probably a huge sigh of relief. You were down heading into the third period. You stayed patient. You got that win in game one. And not to say you ever take your foot off the gas, but I think at least now they can feel a little bit like, okay, we got that out of the way. Let's go.
And those 2 goals in 12 seconds. God.
I was going to say, I was concerned in that third period because Rhett was on Friday or whatever day it was kind of going through here. I'm not sure. You look at Nashville. You get hot at the right time and you go down the stretch. There's some reasons why you can see Nashville doing this. And as I'm watching this game, I said, yeah, this is how they're going to do it. They're going to be able to keep the Canucks in check, and they may still be able to do so. But I thought the third period was a far different story. Vancouver asserted themselves, and then, 2 goals in 12 seconds, and the building exploded. And that was, I would think for Brunette and company, that feels like a missed opportunity for sure.
100%. I mean, look, you even gave them a free one from Saros, and that was the only one they had on the board heading into the third period.
Yeah. And
you aren't able to get out of there with a win. Squandered opportunity for sure for Nashville. I like almost everything about that game from Vancouver's perspective. It was different than the style that they want to play. They're not a dump and chase, chip and chase team. They are a possession monster that loves to carry the puck. Nashville forced Vancouver to do something different. And even with that, and with trailing in the third period, their game didn't change. They didn't try and open it up and play a different way. It was a really mature game, if that makes sense. They showed me something in terms of learning how to be in that moment. And I think it's something that they've learned all year, as opposed to just being a playoff thing.
How much of that is Rick Tocchet?
95% of it.
Yeah.
He's been preaching since training camp, comfort in 1-goal games.
Yeah. They're going to have to see more of it, but it was some very early resiliency. They were going to have to overcome a few things. Some teams, maybe they don't get those goals, or they give up another couple, but Demko made that one pad save. That was a massive save at that point. And you're in a 1-goal game, all saves, but he looked good. And you're right. I think that, I don't know that you look back and say that game one in round one, that set the table for us on our path to a Stanley Cup. But there was a banana peel there if they chose to slip on it. You go down 1-0, and then it's a lot of question marks.
You know what this market's like.
Oh,
it
sure.
Implodes on itself. I mean, to get that out of the way, I think was huge. And look, I'm going to take it a step further. I know, Rhett, you said, hey, this Nashville team, they could be a team that could pull off this round one win. I look at it and I say, the Canucks have an opportunity now in front of them. This doesn't have to be an incredibly long series. This doesn't have to go the distance. You can make life easy on yourself. They're going to need to be dialed in. The attention to detail is going to need to be there, but I think that's on the table for Vancouver if they want to play that way.
How do they line up front? I saw them switching a bit. They put the Lotto line together a couple times as the game went later on. And that sort of has been the thing in Vancouver they've talked about, is where is the right place for all these forwards? Because they brought in Lindholm to be something that I don't know they're really using him as. He's been a third line center.
He was great last night, by the way.
Yeah. What do you need to do to unlock the offense there?
I think maybe that's their blueprint is, watching last night. I mean, it's imperfect. Like Pius Suter playing with JT Miller. I know Suter gets on the score sheet. But I love the Lindholm, Joshua, Garland line. Like, I think maybe for right now, that's the best place for Lindholm. I don't know that anyone really saw him as the 3C kind of coming in, but for someone who didn't play great down the stretch, for someone that could probably use a shot in the arm in terms of confidence, game one was the perfect start for Lindholm. He comes in, he gets that freebie from Saros just inside the blue line. But it's the forecheck on that second goal in the 12-second span. He crunches a guy. Garland makes a great play in his skates to grab the puck and then put it through the legs of the defender right on the tape of Joshua, who has a great sort of drag and places it top shelf. It's as pretty of a sequence as you could draw it up. It's like 12 seconds of playoff hockey bottled up that I thought, sort of perfectly encapsulated the night where the Canucks kind of had to grind through it. Joshua's a player, man. JT Miller was saying after the game that guy doesn't even know how good he is. And it kind of feels like for someone that's 27 and is just sort of really starting to figure it out, he's built for this type of playoff game. He was a menace in the eyes of and in the face of the Nashville Predators in game one. And look, don't want to make any bold proclamations or declarations after one game, but you have a night also where you win and JT Miller doesn't hit the score sheet. Elias Pettersson doesn't hit the score sheet. That probably means pretty good things.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and it's one game, and what else are we going to do? We do daily shows. You're going to microanalyze, but when they fail,
as long as you're not microwaving. I mean,
well, whatever.
My conspiracy theory wife, she was sending me all sorts of, hey, did you notice that the microwave whatever has been high in the US?
Oh boy.
Like what? Okay. All right. You're going to have to explain
Red,
this to me like I'm 5.
Yeah. But that's what it is. No, if they lose that game, then where was Pettersson? Pettersson can't play in the playoff. Well, what about JT Miller? You got all regular season success. No one's talking about that. And yeah, with Joshua,
by the way, Miller was awesome last night.
I think we all kind of play general manager at times, and you go back to when it was the Horvat or Miller, essentially, decision in Vancouver, and they traded Horvat. And I don't
even think the decision was that easy. I think it was, we can't really move Miller, and Horvat, we know we can get something for.
Yeah. But it just felt like here's crazier. A guy who's maybe a bit of a malcontent. He's kind of a bitching and complaining. It doesn't seem, I don't know how well liked he is, this whole thing. And then you've got your captain, you drafted this whole thing. I was very unsure about essentially putting their stock into Miller, but he has been dynamite. But for Joshua, because I feel like he scored against the Flames at least once or twice, I feel, this year. We've seen a bit of him. It's like, who is a fifth rounder from 2014, a Toronto Maple Leaf pick, I believe it was.
And by the way, he wasn't signed by Toronto, and they traded him. This was the Kyle Dubas era.
Yeah.
Dubas traded him to St. Louis for like nothing.
Yeah.
Goes St. Louis didn't get much from either, though, did they?
Yeah. It's his second ever playoff game. 2014 draft. This is what you need, and it's one game, but this is the type of stuff you need. And I'm with you. I think that people have been talking about whatever line he's been on in Vancouver for a while now. And not just for offensive contributions, but just they're a handful. And what do we talk? We get real romantic when teams go on playoff runs. Third lines, that third line, that depth, that one, those gritty guys down the roster that will come through when you need it. It's not inconceivable to think Vancouver's got a bit of that there.
They do, and So let's unpack that for a second, because I think there's actually something instructive here for Calgary in terms of where they're heading and trying to find players. Because how many trades has Craig Conroy made in the last year where the response from experts has been, oh, well, that guy's only going to be a third pair defenseman. That guy, his upside is bottom 6 forward or whatever it might be. And you look at that and you go, oh, well, did he really win the trade? And first off, you don't know. But second, this time of year reminds you that those guys still need to play. A team is only as good as its weakest link. And so if you've got a bottom 6 that can't compete or is getting its doors blown off every time they're on the ice, you're ceding a lot of ground and the ice is tilted during that stretch of time. So those players are important. And also it takes belief that I forget which one of the prospects the Flames got, or he's not even a prospect, but I guess it would be Miramanov.
Yeah.
He's 25, 26?
26, yeah.
26, yeah.
You don't know. It takes belief in the people acquiring you to try and draw that out. And remember, Miramanov came in and he said a bunch of sort of, I don't want to say preposterous, but he was like, I know I can be a top flight defenseman in this league. And we were just like, what was that? Dakota Joshua has never said that, but Rick Tocchet he was all over him. I was here in training camp the day that Dakota Joshua was playing on the 5th line in preseason. And he basically said to him, I know you scored 11 goals last year, but guess what? Your spot on this team this year isn't guaranteed, and you got to pick it up. So I asked Rick Tocchet after the game last night, when did you start believing in the potential of Dakota Joshua? And he said, the second I got here last year. He goes, I saw his body. I saw the way that he could play, and it was about trying to draw that out of him. So part of it is acquisition. Part of it is coach that has belief. And then part of it is half the time convincing the guy to gain the confidence to be that player that you think he might be able to. There's a lot to line up, but I think it says something about trying to mine pieces that no one really has talked. Like Dakota Joshua played at Ohio State and was a 5th round pick who was unsigned and traded. That's about as free as it gets.
Ryan, you were going to go in there. Were you going to jump in?
I mean,
we can move on. We can move on to another series for sure.
I've got a big JT Miller question, but it can go another time. It's evergreen. It's only one game, but God, it feels like it's getting hot for the Leafs here with Nylander's status up in the air.
Yeah. The ultimate of question marks, not on PP1 today in the morning skate. Seems to be doubtful-ish. Hard to make any proclamations this time of year. But you're right. To me, you could go a million directions when talking about the Leafs. I think when you boil it down to its most simplest root and equation, it's this. I went back and looked it up this morning. In the Austin Matthews era, the Toronto Maple Leafs have played 51 playoff games. They have scored 2 or fewer goals in 47% of those games. 2 or fewer.
Yeah.
You've got Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares.
And what's tough there is the Leafs draw Boston. That's the worst possible opponent that you could have got. Or if they get Tampa Bay.
Absolute bullshit.
Man, Tampa, that's just the worst. It feels like there's a lot of bad options. Right? Like there's some
why not just be good?
Yeah, you're gonna have to beat some good teams along the way. And they got behind early. And
what's to stop you from being that team that other teams think about that way?
Yeah. They do and they can come back and win, but they feel as if you believe they're a flawed hockey club. I think they're a good team, but they don't, and I didn't even mind Matthews the other night. He was shooting the puck. He did
he was their best of their big dogs, and he still didn't do anything. And where was Marner again?
Where is Marner? It's been a tough year, and he's got 1 year left on his deal.
It did nothing to help silence the critics who say this here good in the regular season, pond hockey, lots look at my moves, but when you get to the playoffs and things tighten up, it's just not his wheelhouse. And then, we're buddies with Treliving, and he likes his Ryan Reeves, but the first goal, Ryan Reeves goes out of position, ends up taking his own player out of the play, causing a 2-on-1 break, and it's in the back of the net. There's a lot there that just feels like this is not going to end well for the Leafs. And then all eyes are on the coach, the GM's not going anywhere yet, but the coach and Marner. Now Nylander's got his contract. We know that Austin Matthews has got his contract. What kind of an offseason it could be. Now, again, it's one game in, but
they just tonight, don't. It feels a lot better.
Geez, they don't. They just, but right, they don't seem to shape up or match well with just about any of the top teams in the East.
So that would seem to be to me that you have your own issues that you need to sort out until you can get to be in that category.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, look, not to place too fine a point on it, but there are 32 teams and 23 men on each roster. If my math is right, that's something like 736 players in the league. If we were to rank them all from 1 to 736, what part from 700 to 736 would Ryan Reeves fall into?
Yep.
Rhett, did you watch much of the Leafs and Boston from the other night? 'Cause I'm curious your thoughts, because you put stock into chemistry and what brings teams together. There's talent, but there's more to it than that. They got a lot of talent, but they sure seem to be missing the other elements that make
too much history with this group and with this core that they have with the Leafs for them to go and play the same way in game one. Again, they won a series last year, and they can have good games. But we just talked about Vancouver, and Frank talked about that the dump in, forecheck, bang, simple play, but highly effective. Looked like a playoff goal, but something that you can replicate and do over and do over and do over again and again and again. The Leafs don't play that way. They're high flying and they can make nice plays and they can do good things. But to me, they're a team that you can't replicate. And they aren't going to shut teams down defensively. I don't think they have the guns to do that. And they're too fly by their seat of their pants offensively. When it works, it looks amazing. They got some of the most talented players in the game, but they don't have a base for me that they can fall back to and build off and revert back to and go, okay, we're in a spot now. We lost game one, but we didn't play the right way. They didn't lose game one because they didn't play the right way, because I don't think they know how to play the right way or that they can.
I hate their decor too, guys.
Yeah, their decor.
How many top
we didn't
four
even
defense
get
there?
That's why I said boil it down to the most simplest route, which is they're not built to defend, and they definitely don't have the goaltending, so they have to score. How does a team with that much talent up front and that much top heaviness on their cap table get to the playoffs and all this? They're the second highest scoring team in the league this season. How do they get to the playoffs and not score year after year?
And I feel like we see it all the time where we'll move on, where one team, where maybe their toughness or their grittiness, where that's called into question. And then in game one of a series, they're going to come out like Max Domi did. We're not going to get pushed around. This is the new, and then you take a penalty and they score in the power play. And it's like, well, what was that worth? Now, okay, so you can slash Marchand on the wrist, but now you're down 2-0 or 3, whatever it was at that point, where teams need to really kind of flex that muscle and show that they're not the same team that they always were, and then it ends up biting them in the ass. The game was drunk right from the start. 7-6, Jets beat the Avs in a game where how many goals are we? 15, 9, 20? What? I don't know what we learned or what you would expect to carry over. What did you see in game one between the Jets and Avalanche? And you're like, yeah, that's going to carry over into game two. Because I have no idea.
I've got it. I've got the exact answer for you. Hugely troubling for me how the Colorado Avalanche and Alexander Georgiev responded. Huge body language issues. You could tell heading into these playoffs that Jared Bednar was exasperated. He didn't know what to say about his goaltending in the last few weeks. We need more stops. I mean, that's about as clear cut and clean as you're going to hear an NHL coach say it, let alone in March. It looks to me, and Rhett, I don't know if you watched, if you're a body language expert or what you might be able to tell me, that looks to me like a team that doesn't trust its goalie.
Yep.
And it looks to me like a goalie that doesn't trust his team to defend properly. And that is a really, really poor combination. The numbers are no good. And to do it all on a team, to have that kind of goaltending on a team that allows chances the way that they do because of the way that they play. I said before, this is the worst stylistic matchup that the Avs could have hoped for in round one. And to think that you had a 7-6 game, you scored 6 on Hellebuck and still lost is mind-blowing. But the carryover from game to game is the body language, because that isn't going to change and probably isn't going to evaporate.
Yeah, I didn't see enough of it. I was watching bits and pieces here and there, but I'm a massive I look for body language. I look for goal celebration indication. I'm a huge believer in that stuff. And when both sides are frustrated with each other, what you're bringing up, that's troubling.
So here's the easy fix you'd think is, okay, go play the other goalie. But he's been under the weather, Frank.
Yeah,
he didn't even dress
He
last
sounds
night.
like he sounds like you, Pinder.
Yeah, so he's been out drinking Barber Blanc till 2 a.m. And but Justice Anthony's had a really nice run this year, or however you want to say his name.
Eustace
the challenge,
Anthony,
like the challenge being that
Justice.
Like it's an easy swap to make if he's healthy. He might not be. So you're going to throw this guy into the fire less than 100%, or do you go another game with Gorgiev and now you're down 0-2 potentially coming home? Like they scored 6 and lost.
Can they play better defensively? Like, is it in their abilities, right? Because
it's in their ability, yes. It's not in their. It's not their. You're like, so. Allow me, if I can explain this the right way.
Stroke out.
Yeah, that's what I feel like I'm doing. You kind of are whatever your first instinct is, right? And for the Avs, their first instinct is
go.
Yeah, Nathan McKinnon wheeling through the neutral zone at full speed.
But can I you might be done. If you're not, I'm going to interrupt you anyway. Is Bednar a good enough coach and have a good enough relationship with those guys to pull McKinnon in and Makar in and Rantanen in and go, listen, we're going to have to win different. We're going to have to play it. That doesn't preclude you from using the Jets and going and scoring goals, but you need to convince the rest of the team. You know, you and when you're in the playoffs and when you're on a good team and you want to go on a long term, have a chance at the cup, the coach has those conversations. I need you to get the rest of these guys to buy into. We can't all be run and gun, right? Like
the answer to your question is yes, he's a good enough coach. My other question to follow that would be: is it too late?
I was going to say it's a shitty time for back to the drawing board.
You
can't. It's not back to the drawing board.
It's
just it's a reiteration of pause here, fellas. We're going to get our power plays. You're going to play us. You're still going to get your offensive opportunities. Our goalie's struggling. Whoever it is, our goalie's he's having a go here, and we can pile on and we can raise our eyebrows and we can have shitty body language, or we can try and back them up. How can we back them up? Well, we have to play tighter defensively. We just do. It might go away from their natural instincts, and it might not even work. But I don't know what your answer is. You can't continue doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to spin it the other way. Like you're telling me how much went right for Winnipeg last night?
Not really a ton.
Well, I mean, they scored a lot.
They gave up 46 shots on goal and won.
And so this is my point. If your goalie allows 4 on 10 and then later on in the game it's 7 on 22 and you only lose by 1, is the sky falling on your side or the other side? Like it reminded me of game 1 between the Oilers and the Flames 2 years ago in the Battle of Alberta. It's like, I don't know that Colorado doesn't have more room to be better than the Jets do. Like I think it's an easy adjustment for Colorado, whereas Winnipeg, it's like the one thing you have to trust is that Hellebuck's going to be great, and he was not.
Well, he had 46 shots. He had the better save percentage last night.
I think you could argue it both ways.
No one's saying Georgiev's going to be better than Hellebuck. There was always going to be an edge in net for Winnipeg. But, I mean, Colorado scored 6, and everyone's saying they're brutal. Like, if you allow 5, you win that game.
I'm not saying you're brutal, but you still have to be able to shut them down. I don't think it's 7-6 the rest of the way this series.
No, but I think that if you thought that the Avs had a goalie issue coming in, you're far more. I mean, you believe it even more now. And ordinarily, I'm in that department. What do you do? Do you come back? I'm come back to Georgiev, and just it's a shorter leash. But I don't know. He had a bunch of wins in the regular season, but he hasn't been.
He played the most games in the league.
Like he's not been a guy that's evoked any kind of confidence the entire year.
Well, you keep going. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say. Ordinarily, I'm saying go back to your guy, but I don't know how convinced I am that he's their guy anyway.
Well, like you said, Bednar was already there before the playoffs even started. He was done with this guy.
Yeah. But I think that's maybe the most troubling part from an Avs perspective is now you're, at some point you mentioned short leash. You potentially be going to Annunen, who has 15 games of NHL experience. Why didn't you go out and get a competent backup? Why is Jake Allen on the Sportsnet panel yesterday instead of on your bench?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't cost you an arm and a leg. And now your season might be on the ropes because of it.
I mean, his save percentage, his goals against, everything is way better than Georgiev's numbers. I think it's when, not if.
Go ahead.
Well, and the other side is you put Georgiev back in. What are the Jets thinking? It's not only lack of confidence for your own squad.
They feel good.
The other squad's going, right? Yes.
Yeah. But to your point, Ryan, who's obviously the Jets are feeling good, but they gave up 6 and they had 2 and 3 goal leads and couldn't hang on. So how do they feel? Or who is more or less confident and who has room to grow? I still feel like if I'm Winnipeg, I feel like that we're not giving up 6 again. Colorado's great, but we're not giving up 6 again. And if you're Colorado, hey, we're not giving up 7 again. And look, we scored 6 on this guy.
I would imagine both coaches are saying, throw that tape out the window. Let's restart here.
Just a reminder that the Jets are 4-0 against the Avs this year.
I like the Jets against the Avs. I think the Jets are a hell of a team. So I'm not.
Do we really care that much about season series? Like, do you? When it comes to playoffs, we've seen
in this case, I do.
Well, okay, but you'd be stunned if Colorado wins the series?
No, but what I'm saying is including last night's game 1, the Canucks are now 4-0 against the Preds this year, and I put almost 0 stock in that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But this one, Jets and Avs, I do, because I think there's a clear stylistic problem for the Avs and the way they play.
Yeah.
They're playing against, game 1 notwithstanding, the best defensive team in the league with the best goalie in the league.
And just further, did the Leafs not lose to Boston every game?
Yeah, they got swept.
So is it everything and anything? No, but I think there are circumstances where it's like Frank's saying.
Sometimes it means nothing. Sometimes it means everything.
We'll know by the end of the series if it meant anything, right?
Okay,
because if Colorado wins it, it's like, who the fuck cares about the season?
Good, Pinder. We'll know by the end of the series.
No,
really,
but I mean,
you could add that in for us.
Well, it's just it's one game, and everyone. The urge to jump to conclusions is very strong. We talked about it. You can't help but feel like we know how these series are going to go at this point. We don't.
No, we don't. But let me remind you, Battle of Alberta a couple years ago when you asked because you brought it up.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long series until it isn't.
Yeah, and to my point, it was the team that lost game 1 that won that short series that year. And if you had asked people after game 1, you would have said, "Oh God, the Flames are rolling here." Like, geez.
But you also would have said, "We're not going to see another game like that." And then you saw one 2 nights later or whatever it was.
It was. They never got close to 15 goals again.
What was game 2, dude?
Like 4 or 5 goals. I don't know.
Game 2 was off the charts. It
Game
was
2
like
was
same
bananas.
thing. Yeah.
How many
Yeah,
goals were there?
I was
I'm trying to
there. It
remember.
was stupid.
I was there
the Flames
too.
had
It
a
was
lead, and then they
ridiculous.
lost it, and the Oilers ran them out of the rink by the time it was done.
We all went into that saying, "Oh, we'll never see that game again," and that's exactly what it was. I think both goalies got pulled in that game.
Yeah, it was no bueno. Oh, and you know what? It was one of those things too. I think the Flames had that lead, and then Backlund has a breakaway and kind of dumps it into the corner. If he scores that, I still said Smith would have got
hook. Yeah.
gets hooked, and you may not have ever seen him again. But instead,
Dude, who scored that goal from Red Deer on Smith?
that was later in the series, Rasmus Anderson
in Edmonton.
Yeah, that was anyway. Speaking of the Oilers, tonight it's the Kings. I don't have a whole lot of you talk about history being a dictator. The Oilers have them in back-to-back years in the playoffs.
History's not a dictator. Hitler was a dictator.
I don't feel like I don't like the Kings' chances in this series, regardless of whether Evander Kane is playing or not.
They have to be good because I'm in a pool.
You're in a pool, yeah.
Where you buy a bottle of booze, and whoever spends the most on the bottle of booze gets to pick first, and I'm stuck with frickin' LA. So LA.
But you didn't actually buy the bottle, true to form, right?
Hey, I sent you the
small.
receipt, receipt.
Cheap bastard.
They said he's generous when you see him in person, but
that's what it is.
He is, yeah. What are the Kings? What kind of odds do you have on them here?
What are the Kings? They are in trouble.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see what. You know how I mentioned with the Canucks that I think they learned a lot this year? Let's see what the Oilers have learned over 3 years worth of playoff runs. Because
new coach, both sides.
Yeah, but what I would say is the Oilers have done some stupid stuff. 7 games the first year, 6 games last year. Both times they lost the first game of the series. Then had another game in the series that they just absolutely coughed away for no reason. Show everyone that you've made strides. Show everyone that you've got a business-like approach and you're learning, because this is another team that doesn't have to have a long series, that can just add wear and tear for no reason.
And so from the LA perspective, you've got to show you've learned. You had some chances to bury the Oilers and didn't in these series past, right? You've had leads that expired late. You had a 2-0 series lead in one, or a 3-1 series lead in one. Like I'm not saying they have the better roster, but we can't just say one side's learning from their experiences. Like, what do the Kings have to do here?
I think the hardest part for me is squinting real hard and trying to find a path for the Kings to win.
Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, that's
centering the fourth line today to start.
I'm not saying that's he's going to. I'm saying if you wanted a difference maker or someone that was supposed to be a difference maker, that's who they went out and got to help them get through Edmonton and these types of series. I don't know that it happens.
I would say that there's enough history this season to suggest that won't happen. He has all the talent in the world. He has physical gifts and skills that 96% of this league doesn't. He has the consistency of a Boeing airplane. I mean, you never really know what you're going to get. And when it lands, you might want to stand up and clap.
Doing a lot of flying
industry taking a hit here. 99.999% of these things land on all
I know,
wheels.
I'm
Come
kidding.
on.
It's rough.
I was trying to think of something on the fly.
Yeah.
But he's infuriating probably to coach and to be on his team, because you see it every day and you're like, this guy could be amazing. And he doesn't deliver. And now what's interesting is Jim Hiller is trying to really spread out his lineup and spread the wealth. I guess, call it their fourth line. I don't know that the number matters, but it's Byfield with Dubois today to start, at least. 2 large bodies with tons of skill that they're trying to, instead of go top heavy, come at the Oilers in waves. And they may have to adjust. Maybe that's another one of their bets that they're making, is that our 4 lines as constructed can beat our third and fourth, can beat their third and fourth. and then we'll see what happens on a coin flip with the top two.
I'll say this: there's not many fourth lines with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Quentin Byfield on the league. Like, they're deep as hell if that's how they're going to play this thing.
Are they?
Well, I mean,
It's not really a fourth line. If you
no, but they got Fiala on the third line, they got Arvidsson and Dano on the second line, and they got Kopitar and Kempe on the top line. Like, that's 8 pretty good players that they've spread over 4
Rhett,
lines.
let me ask you something about this series. If you were in a dressing room and Evander Kane, before the series even starts, comes out to the media and says, hey, questionable for game 1. I've got a sports hernia.
I've been playing with it all year. That's what he, right? Like, essentially, that's what he said.
Yeah, but I guess, remember there was also that period of time where they scratched him and the coach said, oh yeah, he's, dealing with a nagging injury. And then Kane came out and blew it up in the coach's face and said, no, like, I'm ready to play. And he didn't play me.
I'd just say if you think you're hurt, then be hurt and don't show up. I guess my point is, I don't want any excuses in a dressing room going into the playoffs. If you
isn't that exactly what he just did to try and save himself? Yes. Hey, if I don't play well, 100%. It's because I have a sports hernia.
100%. He's selling out. That's a sellout. That's a cop out. Whatever you want to call it. I would be livid. I'd be
he also this year spun his bucket before a fight with Brendan Dillon and took the extra 2 minutes with Dillon and said, yeah, I wasn't going to play much anyway, so I figured the extra 2 wouldn't hurt. I mean, he hasn't been boring in the media.
No, he's not.
And I guess, is it really out of character for a guy that wore out welcomes in 3 prior NHL markets that he'd be a little bit, me first, not the team first?
I would say it's exactly on brand.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
they're sick of him.
You knew what you were getting when you got him.
Yeah.
And here's the problem with all of this. Here's the problem with all this for the Oilers. They actually need him. Remember how good he was 2 years ago in the playoffs? He tied for the league lead in goals, 13 goals in 15 games, and the Oilers only had 8 of 16 wins.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Somebody's in the chat, and was it 2 weeks ago when he and Corey Perry are having a shouting match on the bench, and we know how we all feel about Corey Perry, but I mean, that guy's.
I want to go to war with.
He's a Hall of Famer, yeah. And if he's questioning something that you're doing, I think I'm probably putting my faith in Corey Perry. We've lost Frank.
Here you go.
He's all. Are you there? Yeah, you go.
Here you go.
Looked like a toilet-y kind of. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Unfortunately, he must be in. It looks like some sort of a broadcast studio because he's got.
That's the Sakaris and Price studio. If I saw the angle, and that's at the Wall Center in downtown Vancouver.
We got him back.
This is the Warner studio.
Yeah, there's the Warner studio.
Also,
yeah, that was not good.
No, you're okay. We had your audio the whole time. We're just the video dropped. So you're what? Sakaris and Price Studios in Vancouver. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they put me in the closet though. I feel like I'm actually in a urinal.
People wondered if maybe you were kind of sitting backwards on a toilet, kind of had your laptop on the top of the tank there.
I wish. At least I would be productive then.
Okay, fair enough. So, what's off day for
weight loss at its finest?
Stop it. There's an off day for the Canucks and Predators. What's up today? What's up tonight? And then
get some sushi.
Going to visit our friends at Greta Bar, Vancouver tonight. If you live in Van. If you're a Flames fan and live in Van for whatever reason, come on down 7:00 Pacific time. Watch the playoff action, and I'll buy you a beer.
Very nice. Flames fans would love to watch the Oilers in Vancouver. That's just what a dream.
Just convergence.
Or you could stay at home on a Monday and go to bed early. I mean, your choice.
That's right.
Do what Pinder would do.
So, will you be going to Nashville for games 3 and 4?
I will.
All right.
I mean, zero fun will be had in Nashville on a Saturday night with no game to cover.
Mm-hmm. That's why he's not going to the Roxy. He's saving his bullets for Nashville.
Yeah, he's got Greta. He'll be fine.
I'm kind of on a little hiatus from alcohol. Not even by design.
No, what is it that gets you crying? You start crying with the Fireball shots? Yeah.
Yeah, I still love Fireball, though.
Yeah.
Emotional.
I'm an emotional guy.
You are.
All that cinema.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Frank. We might we'll see how it goes. Maybe later this week when you get to Nashville, we might like to maybe have a visit. See how get the laydown.
Rhett, come on down from Buffalo. You want to
I
spend the
might.
weekend
So
in
you're
Nashville?
not going to be in Philly next week?
Why are you coming?
Yeah.
Oh.
Tuesday, I'm driving to Philly. Next
Sweet.
week.
Yeah, I mean, I
Preds,
guess
you go.
between the Sabres and Flames, why would you need to worry about your schedule and playoffs?
Thanks, Frank.
Sorry, that was too soon.
It's all right.
But
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
actually going to stop in Salt Lake this week too. I'm going to
Oh, really?
catch up with new Utah owner Ryan Smith.
Really
People like
giving him
this
the show
guy,
and shine,
hey?
eh?
People
I've never been to Salt Lake. Has anyone?
I've driven through. They've got some nice temples. I hear there's actually some good breweries, which surprised me. So I'm open-minded.
Are you
Yeah, for the temples or
The breweries, yeah.
yeah, okay.
anything?
We knew about
He's
the
open.
temples.
He's
Everyone knows
open
about
for
the temples.
anything.
Got
That's
it.
true. I'm not really.
Got it. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you.
See you, boys.
Be in touch. There you go. Frank Seravalli.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.